6:30 p.m. on September the 8th, 2022, when a hush descended over this land, when history stood still as it continued to be written.
Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in British history.
The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world.
The day we knew would come, but do we know what type of Britain these past days of mourning have revealed? The state funeral's guest list shows one clear thing. Britain has lost its greatest symbol of soft power diplomacy, the most famous, revered person on earth.
The global stature that this woman had, there's perhaps no other international figure. When they pass, everyone will know what they were doing on that particular day.
With her passing, we reckon with our future, for the Queen's reign saw Britain not expand, not conquer, but ebb and flow and adjust.
Thousands assembled in Sabina Park to cheer the royal visitors.
Yet her constant presence seemed to give it all a sheen of glamour, of positivity. The Queen was the last connection to that era, once an empire, now an island nation, a union straining after leaving a European one.
My mother's reign was unequalled in its duration, its dedication and its devotion. Even as we grieve, we give thanks for this most faithful life.
That is at the heart of these past 10 days. We move on as we mourn.
It's just very sad. I thought she would always live forever, and obviously that wasn't happened, and I'm glad she died peacefully, and I just feel like a bit of us has all died, really.
Somebody dedicates that to the village. Somebody dedicates that to the community, to the area, to the United Kingdom. It doesn't just ooze out, it flows out.
Queen meant a lot to me.
Did she? What did she mean?
Lots.
Lots.
Yet her death brings out the ceremony and ritual that we do like no other. So amidst the sorrow, a nation marvels at what we do well. Is that pride mixed with a longing for the past? Or is this all once again, just like with her coronation, a chance to display the best of British history?
And goodness, is it arcane? It was an act of modernisation, really, that the King allowed cameras to come in to the Accession Council and the Privy Council that followed. That was a big first, but goodness, what an arcane series of things we then saw.
Ancient tradition meets modern culture. It seeps through every aspect of these past days. The smartphones held aloft by subjects' arms. We can all document history now. And as with every aspect of our royal rituals, all of this is meant to be.
God save the King.
The thing you've got to all remember is that every single thing is happening for a reason, for a desired outcome. It is all choreographed, it's all been planned. I'm very struck by the fact that the queue has become important. They want to get as many people through as possible, and they want those crowds, those lines to appear enormous.
The monarchy is well aware of its need to retain mystique as it modernises. Lying in state here is not centuries old, but 1 century old. Edward VII was the first sovereign to rest in Westminster Hall in 1910. The queue thus reflects our history. Britain's constitutional monarchy has remained through slow, steady steps of tinkering and change. We have inched closer to our present, never jolted by revolution. 21st century citizens happy to be subjects and subjected to hours of waiting. But at the end of this Elizabeth line, what awaits Britain?
Well, a world away from the ornate royal rituals in Westminster, the reality of everyday life beckons somewhat. Many low-income families hit hardest by the cost of living crisis are finding it very hard to cope.
There are other lines that aren't one-offs. The royal coverage can quickly shift to our day-to-day problems. Remember, after the joy of the Jubilee, the next morning there was a confidence vote in the Prime Minister.
Your Majesty.
We awake tomorrow from mourning, with a buried Queen, a new King, and a wholly new cabinet.
It's the moment I've been dreading, as I know a lot of people have, but try and keep everything going.
Perhaps the biggest question for Charles III is what people he reigns over. Commonwealth members are in the capital now, but there are murmurs of how much longer they can have a head of state who lives abroad. And what of the domestic union? The 4 nations that King Charles visited in the first full week of his reign.
A place scarred by violence, transformed again by peace. The extraordinary symbols of just how much things have changed, evident at every turn.
But in Northern Ireland, they may wonder why they can move from Queen to King so quickly when they still struggle to form a functioning government in Belfast. Scotland fell silent for Her Majesty. But will the calls for a referendum grow louder? And what of the disquiet in Wales over having yet another prince not born in their province?
The Republicans were a minority, but when the king arrived, they made themselves heard.
Monarchy remains popular, republicanism remains minimal. But the clampdown on sporadic protests has made us question whether we really have gone back in time. Habeas corpus almost on hold.
Whenever there is a protest, it's never the time, it's never the right place. It's always be quiet and find a more appropriate time. Well, when is the time then?
The 21st, Prince of Wales.
So much will ride on the coming coronation. The Queen's was an ancient affair that her husband had wanted to modernise. Hereditary peers got a front row seat, democratically elected MPs did not. That lavish ceremony sought to emphasise Christianity and the Commonwealth. Charles's coronation will surely be different, less imperial, more multi-faith, and a lot shorter than his mother's 3-hour marathon. These past days have shown reverence for royalty, but also a nation ready for slimmed-down symbolism. The king knows the expectation to represent a new era.
As I stand before you today, I cannot help but feel the weight of history which surrounds us.
Charles III won't go the way of Charles I, but he will be aware of his other namesake, Charles II, whose reign oversaw a plague and that great fire of London, but who still remained the merry monarch, a smile amidst the gloom and turmoil. What will King Charles's role be as we enter a possible winter of discontent?
I shall endeavour to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love, as I have throughout my life.
As the Queen makes her final journey to St George's Chapel, to be placed beside her husband, sister, mother and father, remember the words of Philip Larkin on her Silver Jubilee. In times when nothing stood, but worsened or grew strange, there was one constant good. She did not change. She is now gone. Do we now grow strange or worsen? Whatever awaits this nation after mourning, reflect on this, that we may never again experience the likes of this reign, this spectacle, this global attention ever again. Put down your phone and remember.